The world is full of ordinary people just like you and me, who have actually done pretty extraordinary things. Things that you and I just look back on in awe, but we would walk past them on the street and not think a second that this person has led such an amazing life, all due to one thing. They've just backed themselves and they have become something that they are just great. My name's Kyl Reber, and this podcast is about just that. Ordinary people who are now showing us that it is possible for ordinary people like you and I to back themselves and become something amazing. So join me in listening to these people, listening to their stories, because who knows, one day I might be talking to you. Hello and welcome to the Kyl Reber podcast. My name's Kyl Reber. Probably judge by the jumper I'm wearing that I am back from my annual trip to Thailand, and my guest here is very well dressed and very well presented. Her name is Kylie Shannon. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
You're welcome. She's slightly nervous, but we're going to work through it. And she did show in the last take our notes, but just for this sake, please. Yep, she has notes, extensive notes, which is good. She's arguably more prepared for this than I will ever be. We'll get into a little bit more on the connection Kylie and I have later on, but this podcast is all about you.
Great.
And she's not sure where to look.
No.
So she's just working that out as we go. And we're just going to wing it a little bit. So I'm very excited about this for a number of reasons, but over to you. So first question. First to now in 7 minutes.
This is what I've prepared the most notes for. In case I forget. But I was born in Boston, and when I was 6 weeks old, I moved to California, where my mom is from, and I was raised there until I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
My childhood was marked with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, lots of episodes of that, and they filmed it on my friend's street. That was a highlight of my childhood.
There are many boys that I went to high school with that are very jealous of you.
I got to meet Eliza Dushku, Alison Hannigan, so that was cool. I never met Sarah Michelle Gellar though, but all the like peripheral characters, very cool. And then when I was 12, we moved back to Massachusetts, where my dad's from, to a farm town. So I went from like a very Asian school to a very white country school, and I'm mixed race. So I went from being the whitest kid in my school to the most Asian kid in my school, which was interesting dynamic. I went to uni in Boston at Northeastern, and I initially went in to study pre-med. And then my second year, the Boston Marathon bombings happened, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But then I kind of took a year off, moved to Washington, D.C., worked for a congressman for 6 months.
Wow.
And then I moved to Sydney and did a semester at University of Sydney. And then I just really wanted to finish my degree, which was health sciences. So I went back to Boston and smashed that out. I graduated a year early, and I did my thesis on addiction studies because I made a documentary about my hometown, which is the heroin capital of America.
Okay.
Yeah, so that interest began that year because my next door neighbor, Cindy, passed away from an overdose when she was 17. And I had a dream in which she came to me and said, you need to do something about this. And then that very day I had class with a girl, Kalia, who I went to school with. And she said, I think I want to do a documentary about addiction. And I was like, that's so weird. I just had a dream about that. And we worked together on the documentary. And we got a really good grade. So that was fantastic. I moved to Spain after I graduated uni, and for 3 years I was working for a travel company which is run by an Australian, and he basically gives you free beer, and you can live in a tent in exchange for working extensive hours.
That sounds very Australian.
Yeah, it was fun, and I was like, I can't believe people live like this. So there was like really fun party years, and then I moved to England. I lived in Liverpool for 4 years, and I was a cocktail bartender at like a bougie cocktail bar then, and I won a bunch of cocktail competitions, so that was cool. And then obviously lockdown happened, so I started working in a nursing home, and I did that all through lockdown. And then
where were you working in the nursing home?
In Liverpool still.
Liverpool.
Yeah. So I was basically just going to work night shift, come home to my cottage, not leaving. And my husband is from Australia. You should probably come into the story at some point.
Probably.
We got married in 2018, Liverpool.
Love you.
And he's from Brisbane, so we decided to move to Australia. And I've always wanted to get into drug and alcohol counseling. I've written it in countless notebooks that I have, like manifest this goal. This is what I want to do with my life, like little brainstorms. I've got pictures of all of them. And I actually broke down the steps to get there. And so I enrolled in TAFE when I got here for mental health and alcohol and other drugs. And literally like a month later, I got an internship at my job now. And then I started working there, and I've been there for almost 3 years. 2 years? 2 years.
So there's a lot there.
Yeah.
You are trying to.
Did I succeed at 7 minutes?
I reckon you've gone under. I've got more time now. This is
So
great.
I left out my husband.
Love you. I'm sure it'll pop back up again. And if you're listening, love you. I think the first question I want to ask is you moved around a lot.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of the world.
Yeah.
And like you said, you had that epiphany with someone affected by drugs. Is that something that the whole time you were working towards, or it was always in your mind?
It's always been in my mind. So after uni, I pretty much committed to being a partier for a few years. But when I ended up back in Liverpool bartending, I think it was just a random January, I looked up a place to volunteer in the industry, and I found this place called Genie in the Gutter, and it was a day rehab kind of. They called it a bridge to recovery service. So it was for people who were in active addiction who needed support during the day, and they had recovery groups, they had yoga, they had dance therapy, they had music therapy, like all kinds of really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I volunteered there for 2 years, and that it was, in a way, it was for my own situation as well. I was seeking that, but I was able to be a volunteer there and get into it that way. And then I was kind of, you know how they say, like, when you want to find out what you should do, you should look at what you're doing in your free time and be like, okay, well, what am I interested in then? I'm just researching on my own. And for me, it was always like Gabor Mate books and looking into like videos or people's books about like getting sober. And I was like, what a weird interest this is. But in a way, it all sort of came together in what I'm doing now. But it wasn't necessarily clear that whole time.
Yeah.
It
sort of just manifested itself a little bit over time, and it just came to you. And now the organization that you work with now is very much in the throes of that. So now you're seeing it day to day. I pretty much do exactly what I wanted to do. And is it still a passion?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there days that it's tested?
Definitely days that it's tested, but since I worked in hospitality for so long, I worked in my family's restaurant when I was a kid. They have a fish market in Boston, and then I'm bartending for all those years. Like, to have public holidays off is such a joy every time it happens. And I'll get stressed out at work. Like, my stress at work is so different from what it used to be. Now it's emotional stress. Taking on people's trauma, listening to people's stories all the time and help working with them through their like mental health. That's stressful in a different way, but still I'm constantly reminding myself, like, this is so much better than hospitality. Not that hospitality is bad, but you know, I did that for a long time.
Hello to all the hospos out there. Because again, this is an area that has fascinated me over time. And again, when we connected, I literally jumped at the chance to get involved with your organization for similar reasons. But is there, like you said, taking the weight of those, everyone's trauma, is there those moments where it sometimes gets a bit too heavy, or you're spending so much time on everyone else's trauma you don't get time to spend on your own?
I think in the beginning, yes.
Or are you able to compartmentalize it now?
It's not necessarily compartmentalizing now, because I have been working on my own mental health through this whole process as well. And like, I mean, during the day, we do so many things. We meditate together. It's all improving my mental health as well.
Yeah. So you're kind of getting it at the same time.
Yeah. And so we're doing boundaries together. I'm learning about my own boundaries and not taking on everyone else's trauma. But I think the key thing that I do now is like self-care, which I was always like, this is so boring, like journaling, going for a walk. But I have a morning routine where I wake up early and I go walk my dog at 5 o'clock and I journal all the time. I do lots of yoga and I play drums pretty much every day. And I go to the gym quite a lot. And if I don't do those things, my own mental health will deteriorate.
And you notice when those things aren't happening.
Yeah.
It's almost instant. Yeah.
And especially for me, when I was nearing my end of my time bartending, I had insomnia for years. And
it's not an industry that promotes sleep patterns.
No, not at all. And I'm naturally a morning person. I've always known that. And when I was finishing work at 4 a.m., I would still wake up at 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And that for years, it just makes you crazy. And so now for me, a sign that my mental health is starting to go is when I start having insomnia again.
Yeah, right.
So that's when I have to start looking at my self-care regime again. But I was definitely, like, even a year ago, a workaholic, which is another addiction. And
we're all addicted to something.
Yeah, I was working full-time in my role now, Monday to Friday, and then I was working on Friday and Saturday in corrections at juvie, and just pretty much working 13-day fortnights, having this every second Sunday off. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I was not fine. But now, like, giving myself time to do the boring stuff is helping. Yeah.
And I guess that is a good message that it sends to the people that you work with too.
Yeah, it's
obviously very relatable for them too.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Influence over authority.
Yes. One of my clients is the one who brought it to my attention that I was a workaholic at the time. It was last year, June, and she's a client again at the moment. But yeah, she was like, you need to turn like the mirror back on yourself because you're a workaholic. I was like, oh.
How was it taking advice from a person that essentially, like said, is a client?
Yeah, I learn so much from my clients all the time. I know a lot of people who work like as a counselor or in the similar role. They see their clients for 1 hour a week and they have all these strict professional boundaries, and I'm a little bit different. I'm obviously within the realm of protecting myself, but I also feel like you can get so much more in the relationship if you're leveling with people.
Yeah, I think it's like for you, like I said, you've got to obviously have your boundaries, but if they can see an element of vulnerability, they'll give you more, won't they?
Yeah. So we've got a good relationship, me and most of my clients. Give and take. They give me advice, I give them advice.
It's good.
Yeah.
And there's obviously going to be people that you just don't click with.
Yeah. That's why it's good to have someone working with you.
Yeah.
So they don't only have one caseworker that they can choose.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
That was more than 7 minutes.
No.
I told you this is all right. 3 reasons you get out of bed every morning.
So I have pre-seen all these questions, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
I had a literal reason and then like some more metaphorical reasons, but my literal reason is my dog, Sadie. She is my best friend. And if I don't get up with her at 5 o'clock, she will just come up straight into my face and go,
What type of dog is she?
She is a Bitsa, as they say in Australia. She's a rescue dog. She's mostly Staffy and Bull Arab, but there's some Boxer in her as well. Yeah. She's she's dog shaped, like an emoji of a dog. Yeah. She's white with brown spots.
How old?
She's 2. Yeah. So we got her when she was 1. Yeah. So
I don't imagine you to be a purebred sort of dog person.
No. I had a dachshund growing up, but
yeah,
she was the runt, so she was not very long. She was just compact.
And Sadie is your you don't need an alarm clock, you have a Sadie.
I do have an alarm clock, and in winter I get her up. So this morning I had to like uncover her and go, come on, we're going for a walk.
I know you grew up in Boston, so like this is kind of okay for you, but for us Queenslanders,
it's cold.
This is bullshit.
It's pretty cold, but every day I'm like, I didn't move to Queensland to be cold, you know?
Oh, this is ridiculous.
I thought I was supposed to be hot.
This is cold by our standards.
Yes.
All right. What's the other reason?
Oh, the other reason. Like, anyway, I only had one other reason written down, which is unlike me, but my reason for getting out every day is my job, because I love my job. Like, it gets me out of bed. I'm thinking about it. I'm brainstorming things all the time. And on the weekends, I'm kind of like, Sunday scaries, but I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go back to work tomorrow. And like, yeah, it's just a joy, and every day is different. So that's a thing that I think I value, not getting bored at work. And people are really grateful. People want to be there. They're really grateful for the support.
You're in a line of work where essentially, like you said, when you start pre-med, like you're in a line of work in the same situation where you do have their life in your hands on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And that must be an immense amount of responsibility. But if you love what you're doing, then you don't, I guess, view it as much like that.
I just get so excited when there's a new person and I get to teach them about like the triune brain, or like the impacts of trauma, and you can see them being like, oh, and I'm like, yes, this is what I live for.
Do you have, with the people you work with, like we said before, there'd be people you don't click with, but then there'd be people that initially would be quite resistant, and then that wall just comes down.
Yeah.
In that moment.
There are definitely challenging individuals to work with. There haven't really been any that like despise me or anything, but
do you get the occasional, because we said you've gone through your own stuff, the you don't know what it's like, and you sit back and go, or
they go, what's your trauma? I'm like, not today.
let's have it out. Very good.
It can be like a comparison game. A lot of people will do that and be like, oh, yours is worse than mine, and I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
But there would obviously be those people.
Yeah. I think the hardest people to work with are the ones who are not ready to make the change for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, they are still stuck in a victim mindset, because obviously they have been victims, but they're going to stay a victim if they can't move past that, like not letting that just define who they are now. There's been a few like that, and it's frustrating because I'm like, you have to like pick yourself up. Of course, what happened to you is awful, and I'm not denying that, but you can't just keep going back into that narrative forever. And
like you said, there's only so many you can help, and like we've had it in here as well. There is just that point where I don't know what we can do to help you. Yeah, there is a point where you're like, oh, well, here we are. All right. Question number 3. 2 guilty pleasures that you have. Yes. One really disturbs my colleague, Ashley. Oh, God. It's TikTok ASMR cleaning videos. Okay. So it's lots of not what I expected. Yeah, it's lots of like brush sounds and tapping of cleaning products. Very relaxing to me. Okay. It doesn't even have to be a dirty kitchen. It can just be a kitchen that's already clean, and then they're just cleaning it again. So I'm gonna be quite proud to say I'm not a TikToker. So you search for this and then just put it on in the background. The way the algorithm works, it comes to you. It comes to me. They know that I'm interested in these cleaning videos, so I get exposed to more and more cleaning videos. Yeah. Okay. So that I'll do that sometimes before bed to wind down. Yeah, I don't know why. It's people who have just really clean houses and they're just making them cleaner and more organized. I'm like, yes. Is your house clean? No. It's not even close. I live with 3 boys and a dog. So it's not usually clean. All right. It's aspirational for me. The other guilty pleasure probably will piss people off too, but it's the Kardashians. I love the Kardashians' new show. Look, I can empathize with that. My wife, love you. She has a very distinct thing for RuPaul's Drag Race. Ah. Every single series, all stars, different countries. And yeah, we just as a house have just learned to tolerate it. That's a fun show. It's just something that I just go, okay, I guess that's you. But yeah, Kardashians, what's your favorite Kardashian? It'll probably be Khloe. I didn't initially like Khloe, but they had the old series that was like 20 seasons, like from when they were
back in the day, 2001 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was produced for I think the network in America. I didn't watch it then.
So just look,
I'm specific.
keep talking, but don't start any of your sentences with because I don't know.
Yeah. But the new series, so this is season 3, where they are the producers, so they're controlling the narrative of the show. So they're showing you what they want to show you rather than the producers of the old show showing you the drama that they want to show. And I think that was quite scripted, and I'm sure this is as well, but I just love it. I was like, I didn't even know I loved Khloe Kardashian until now, and she's hilarious.
Which one is there? A Kardashian married to a guy from Blink-182?
Yes, that's Courtney.
That's Courtney.
She's married to Travis Barker.
Sorry,
Courtney Kardashian Barker. Yeah,
right, okay.
She's pretty insufferable. Yeah,
okay.
But I think that's intentional. Yeah. And then Kim, everything in the episode, she's just like such a boss, and like she's just, I mean, yeah.
So do you watch this at home?
This is part of my self-care.
Public space
in my house. Saturday mornings, usually around 8 o'clock, because the boys are asleep. So that's my private time to watch the Kardashians.
This is hilarious. This is just reminiscent of our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of trash TV.
I think you do.
I don't like the dating shows and Love Island and stuff, so I choose,
No, well, I don't know which is worse, but I would go Kardashians might be a better choice.
I recommend giving it a go.
Really?
Yeah. Just one go. See if you like it.
Okay. All right. I need to take advice from everyone. I keep getting told. All right. Next question. One thing you bought that has literally made you happy every day after.
Yes. This is my coffee machine. Because one of the things later I can't live without is coffee. And in Australia, obviously, this one, they don't really have filter coffee machines frequently. So I bought myself a filter coffee machine, which I time, so it turns itself on in the morning.
Oh.
And it's a big pot of coffee. And one of my housemates is a tradie, so he gets up before me. And so everyone is able to have a pot of coffee. And it's so nice. When I first got it, I was like excited when I was going to sleep, because I was like, ooh, coffee soon.
But that's not, see, Australians, we don't do
black filter coffee.
I have black coffee, but I don't do it filtered.
It's stronger.
Filtered coffee to me is the stuff you have at a wedding because it's cheap.
The big pot.
Yeah, and it's a big pot sitting on the plate.
Look, it is cheap.
I think it tastes nicer. Do Australians do better coffee than America?
See, it's different.
It's different.
Like if you go to a coffee shop at home and you order a coffee, it'll just be a filter coffee.
Just pour it out.
So that is my preference for type of coffee to drink. So I like that. But yeah, the only place you'd get like a cappuccino and a latte would be Starbucks. Yeah.
And their coffee's shit house.
Charbucks.
Now, how do you go with coffee? Like if you go to get a coffee at a cafe now, how do you go?
I get a little treat because I always have my own coffee in the morning. So if I'm going out to get a coffee, like to be fair, this I made instant with a little bit of milk in it. But my preference is like a mocha. Like I go hard. If I'm going out, I'm going full fat milk mocha. Like I'm getting
hit me with it.
Yeah.
Because the Americans don't like milk and coffee, do they?
No, we use half and half. Cream.
I remember having that in the States.
Yeah. It's weird, but you only need a drop and it gets milky. But yeah, I prefer black coffee. But when I make instant coffee at work, I put milk in it.
How many a day?
2. The first one's big though. Like
we're probably getting into questions down the track, but yeah, it's because I like those.
I have I take it on my walk with my dog, so it's like a big takeaway carafe thing. Probably 2 cups of coffee in it.
Jesus. And
then I have 1 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, none after midday, except this one.
Except the one I'm having right now.
This is an exception, everyone. I had a busy morning and I didn't have time.
She was busy writing notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be fair, I did that yesterday. So
Jesus. That's even more prepared. Okay. One thing everyone thought you were crazy doing, but you did it anyway.
I believe I picked going to Spain. Let me confirm that. Yes. This is where my husband will come in.
Oh, Love you.
So when I graduated uni, I had a few job offers, not really offers, like job pipelines I could go down. I was working in public health, and they were kind of like, please stay with us. I had another job that I was considering as an RA in Prague for my uni's like study abroad program. And then this other job, which is the unpaid pay you in beer one. And I chose that one. Obviously, everyone was like, you're crazy. My mom cried. Sorry, Mom. She was like, you need to do a master's degree. I was like, why would I do a master's? I'm not even prepared to use my current bachelor's degree. That would be silly.
Did you come from an academic family, would you say? Because when you were running through everything, you've done a lot of study.
I did. Yeah. It was academic focused because I have an Asian mom. So I think it comes with the territory there.
Yeah.
My dad went to uni in Boston, and he has a liberal arts degree. His interpretation of it is that he was like, wanted to do the easiest one. But he is an engineer now. So he works with computers. I actually have no idea what his actual job is, but it's some sort of IT engineer. And yeah, my mom went to community college. So she was pushing for us to go to school. My sister went into the Navy, did 6 years in the Navy, and then she's just finished an engineering degree.
So it was always the plan.
Yeah. It's kind of like an American thing too. You have to go to college straight away.
It seems to be.
Yeah. There wasn't really an option to not.
It seems to be. I know more so in Australia now, there's a real push of going and getting a trade now. So yeah, obviously, yeah, there's always, and we see American TV that go to college.
Yeah.
Go to college.
And you do it for like the college experience, which wasn't great for me.
I'd rather not.
It's not a great time. But yeah, I remember moving. I had a single which connected with a bathroom to two girls, and we were all half Asian or quarter Asian, and we were like, this seems intentional. But anyway, besides that.
So hence why the move to Spain worked for beer theory.
Yes.
It didn't sit well.
No, it didn't sit well with the mom. But you know, I was pretty determined. I'd been really inspired by the film Into the Wild to kind of like reject societal norms and go seek my own thing. And in America, when you graduate, you send out like a postcard to everyone and like, I graduated.
Thank God you didn't die in a school bus.
Yeah, true. Mine was a quote from Chris McCandless, from the guy who actually did all that stuff. And it was like, the greatest joy in life is to have an endlessly changing horizon, for each day to have a new and different sun. And I was like, I'm going to go see the world. But I was like kind of reflecting a few years into it, and I was like, am I running away from things?
That was actually, it's funny you should say that, because that was something that I went to ask earlier.
I think I was.
And I held off. I'm not sure why I held off.
Yeah. I had some family issues with my extended family, my grandma specifically, leading into my last year at home. And she's a bitch. And
you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family.
Yes, I choose not to associate with her anymore. But and then I was dating someone who was cheating on me the whole time. So I was kind of like, fuck this place. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go for it. You just did.
Heck this place. And initially that was like what fueled it. But yeah, so then going there, I've met some of my best friends who I still have now. My maid of honor was my friend Javi, and I met overseas in that time, and I met my husband Louis at that time, and it's like really connected me to they're mostly Australian people, but Australian friends who have helped me like settle into my life here now.
So was that a culture that you just identified with?
Yeah, well, people who just live in tents and party. I was like, wow. I was like, I can't believe this is a choice I can make.
You guys are all in one spot.
Yeah, it was wild. And when we were in Germany, because we worked at festivals. So we worked at Oktoberfest.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember at the time, it was 2016. So it was like the Syrian refugee crisis thing happening. And people kept dropping clothes off to us. Like really lovely old German women would give me a sweater. And I was like, they think we're refugees. But yeah, we were there by choice. So that was cute.
And I guess the work for beer theory, it obviously had a lifespan.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For a lot of people that I worked with, the dark side has it. So that was about 8 years ago. Some of the older people who were working there for years and years and years have had really bad outcomes now. Like most of us hit like 24, 25 and we're like, I can't really live like this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost one to suicide recently. Couple have been in and out of rehabs. Yeah.
So you still keep in contact with a lot of those people?
Yeah. Most of us are still in touch. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Any lifestyle like that, it has a time period.
Yeah. Yep.
But
Bartending
at the time, we don't think that.
No.
We just think how fucking good it is.
Like, I can't believe no one else is doing this. Like,
been there. Done
yeah.
that. All right. 4 things you cannot live without: animate or inanimate.
Yeah, I did copy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on page 2 of my notes here.
She's page 2.
Yep, everyone, page 2. So that's a literal object. The second one's Louis, my husband, because he feeds me. He he volunteers at a food pantry on Tuesday nights, and that's the night that I have to feed myself, and it's grim every week. Yeah, I'm like, what is food? I don't remember how to cook. Yeah, but he's Italian descent, so he's very much like an Italian grandma the way he feeds me. So he's an excellent cook.
And you said he's Brisbane born?
Yeah, he's born and raised in Brisbane.
So when you came to here, it was like you automatically had
family
and friends straight up?
Yeah, which is nice.
That would have been good.
Yeah, they're all very cool. The other 2 things are like activities that I need to do to survive, and one is journaling and the other one's learning. I've ended up being a big nerd, but I'm always reading, like Gabor Mate, Chef's Kiss. I think
it's I often say to people, when you have the conversation that somebody's set in their ways, that's somebody that is older and we're not getting any younger. So the fact that we're still comfortable learning new things, it's very refreshing.
Yeah, there's always new information out there.
100%.
Yeah,
even with your stuff, the stuff that was, stuff that was the thing 50 years ago, that is not what we do now.
No, not at all. And I don't know if it's just me because now I'm in the industry and I'm like seeing all the stuff, but there's still like that viewpoint where I had a conversation yesterday with a friend who was like, oh, my cousin needs to start going to AA. And I was like, good.
Go.
Like, but it was kind of like he was viewing it as like, oh, you failed, you've called it quits. Like that's where you go. I'm like, well, she probably will need more than that, than just AA.
and I think you're right. Like where I grew up, in country Queensland, if you went to AA, if you had a psych as a teenager, you were a nutcase.
Yeah.
Now, every second person,
everyone
it's
needs
a very normal thing.
Yeah.
How many people could have been helped back then if there wasn't a stigma attached to it?
Yeah. The psych thing still gets like my mom and like that generation to be like, why do you need a psychologist? I'm like, because I need it. And she's like, you're fine. I'm like, okay.
Having the same conversation with people, much older than me as well.
Yeah.
But getting them to start that process now, it's just not going to happen.
No. Which is frustrating, but especially when it's like a lot of my clients' parents, they're like, oh, they don't understand them, and they get frustrated because they won't listen. And I'm like, they probably won't ever. So you just need to accept that.
Yeah, they just won't understand.
Yeah.
What was the next one?
That was it. Journaling and learning.
Oh, journaling and learning. Journaling.
Yeah.
So conversations with people about journaling, because I journal. I'm not a religious journaler like every single day.
Yeah.
What's your, you are an avid journaler?
Yeah. So since
without asking what you'd write, what's your process to doing that? Criteria even?
Probably now I do it once a week. So it's usually either on Sunday evening or Monday morning.
And it's like a recap or just
it is.
It's like a diary.
At times I can use it to track how my mood, because I have depression and sometimes it'll dip at certain times. Then you can kind of look back and be like, oh, I don't even remember feeling that way, but it's how I'm feeling today. Sometimes I'll write things I'm grateful for, but we do that every morning in my job. Like we all say 3 things we're grateful for, focus for the day, and something good that happened yesterday. So that helps me. I do that every day, but with my own journaling, it's kind of working through any thoughts that I'm having. It's kind of like if you would just call someone and be like, can you just listen for a minute, and all I soundboard stuff. And it's changed throughout the years, but I've done it since I was 12, and I have all of my journals.
I was going to say, have you got a stack?
Yeah.
Do you ever look back on them?
Yeah, I do. And I mostly notice how my handwriting has changed.
I read like shit.
Now it's worse than it used to be.
Do you, are there some you look back on and not to use the word trigger, but you go, wow, I've come a long way, or I was really fucked up back then?
Yes. Definitely. And it can make you like go back into those emotions. Like when you read the sad ones, then you're like, God, I feel sad now. So I don't do it all the time, but I do, like, every January I'll write what my goals are for the year, and I like to look back on those ones and be like, did I do, like, because sometimes it'll take me a couple years to finish that goal, and then I'll be like, oh, I can take that one off now. So that's nice. Yeah. There was a period of time where I was writing really, like, chaotically, like really, it was when I was living in a tent. I was writing, it was like I was Ernest Hemingway. I was like, and someone behind me is like saying this, and the sun is a piercing, and I was like, what? Very descriptive.
Very Hemingway. Very Hemingway. That's good. All right. Okay. If you were not doing what you're doing in life right now, what would have been option number 2?
The one other thing that I like toyed was filmmaking, because I was always like making videos of my friends, and I had a video camera when I was little, and that was kind of like the constant, that journaling I was constantly interested in. So then when I was like, what do I do with my life, I was like, well, that's something I've always done and I've always liked. But I did a documentary for my thesis, like I said, and then I was kind of like, well, that's something I'm done. Yeah.
So it's never something, you talk to other people about this question, and if you say to them, do you regret, not having done that? Some people really pause and go, but not for you.
I don't think so. I gave it a fair crack in uni. I ended up minoring in communication studies, which was like the major you needed to do film. And I was interested, but then I don't know. I don't think so. I think I did enough of it, and I could still do it. I still have a camera and stuff.
And you could very much tie what you're doing into that as well, I guess, if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. One time you have backed yourself when everything was saying to just give up.
I had to think about this one a lot, because I just did a marathon. So that's what my answer is. I did the Sunshine Coast Marathon in August last year. And my reasoning was, it was part of my own healing process for the marathon bombings. To me, for some reason, I felt the need to run.
It's funny. I was thinking a few times now, we're up to question 8 of 10.
Yeah.
We haven't even touched it.
Well, here it is.
Strap in, folks. This is it.
Yeah. So I always divide my life into before the bombings and after the bombings, because it was like a big impact on how I've like lived my life. But the bombings happened when I was a sophomore, so my second year of uni. I was watching my friends run, and then it was like absolute chaos. They shut down the phone lines, and the reason it impacted me for so long, I think, is because for a few reasons. One, I didn't understand what trauma was, and I thought if I didn't lose any limbs, then I didn't have trauma. And 2, I didn't really have any, like, I had supports, but I didn't use them.
Yeah.
So in the 4 days after, when they shut the city down, I was just like lying in my bed, staring at the TV, watching the footage. And there was no like dealing with what I was feeling. And then the years went by, and I only in the last 2 years have started like seeing a psychologist talking about it, and I realized I had a lot of anger about it. And at the time I was like, it's survivor's guilt, which is just trauma, but they gave you another name for it. And I was like, oh, that makes more sense of what I have, because there was like a child who died, and I was like, it's just so random. It could have been anyone standing there. And it pissed me off because it was such a fun day in Boston. Like, that's like the most fun day of the year, because it's on a Monday. It's a public holiday only in the city of Boston. And it's just like everyone's having a great time. Like, it's so fun.
So where were you exactly when it happened?
I was probably 800 meters from the finish line. So the bombings were at the finish line. And because of my major, which was pre-med at the time, a lot of my classmates were volunteering at the finish line to hand out the blankets and stuff. So then instantly I'm like, oh, all of my classmates are dead. And we didn't know what had happened straight away. So basically everyone just started running. And then there was just sirens and sirens and sirens and sirens. And I lived like not far from there. It was like around the corner. So we just ran back to our house. And then, yeah, we didn't really know what was going on. I went on like Twitter, and a couple of people I was in class with were just tweeting like limbs everywhere, blood everywhere. And it was just like, they were just tweeting that. And I was like, what the hell? And people were texting me, and then it all stopped. So I didn't know, like my friend had just run past. I didn't know if he was dead. I didn't know like what was going on. And yeah, so there was a lot of like, it was kind of like still, and messages were coming through, and I was just lying there like, and people at home, it's like a half hour from Boston where I grew up, and people were like, oh, you know, I can't believe they've done this to us. And I was like, to you, like, you weren't even here, you don't live here.
So and you were taking it very personal.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a bad day, but it took me a long time to figure out that was still a trauma.
That's something that will hang with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Up until probably last year, I still couldn't talk about it without feeling that feeling in your chest. But I worked with an amazing psychologist who hypnotized me and brought me back, because I tend to dissociate now, even with all of my current emotions. And he helped me to like release and realize that it was anger that I was holding on to. And it was anger because they ruined that day for me. Like, and now they've ruined the city of Boston for me. I can't go down Boylston Street. Like, I can't do a lot. I can, but like,
oh, it's hard.
Yeah. Without the same like carefree spirit there.
Because as I said to you in our first chat, the media obviously tells us one thing, and we're in Australia. And as we spoke about, like the Netflix documentary has been out for terribly long. I put that on not knowing really anything about it, and I couldn't turn it off. And like you said, the concept of you watching that, it's not going to happen right now. I didn't know of all the other stuff that went with it. Like you said, that 4 days of an entire city being locked down,
totally shut down,
shootouts in the streets. You know, it was just crazy. You said you like you said, you were locked in your house. You couldn't leave.
So our apartment it's pretty much like right downtown. It was like a couple of minutes away from the site. And so we weren't allowed to leave. And it was the first nice sunny day of the year. And we were sticking our arms out the windows trying to catch a few rays. And I told you before, I tried to sneak out, and I got like one step out of my front door, and the police were like, get inside. And I was like, damn it. But like, you know, I was 20. It was like, I just want to be outside. But yeah, it's just been the 10 years this year. And I think now it's taken me like 10 full years to process everything that happened. And like running that marathon was the last thing I wanted to do. And there's a lady who lost her legs, Adrienne Haslett. And I've followed her on Instagram, and she ran Boston Marathon the same year that I did that marathon. So we were kind of training at the same time. And it was like obviously very hard for her because she lost a limb during that, and she wasn't running or anything. She was spectating on the day, and she became a runner now and she has all new teeth because her teeth got like blown out. So yeah, she's very inspirational, and I only hit the wall in my marathon in the last kilometer.
That's good.
And I was like, oh my God.
That's good. because I'd hit the wall in the first 3.
Yeah, I was like, this wall is a myth. I'm feeling great. And then I was just like, oh my God, I need to walk. But then I had to,
The training for it, that was something
yeah.
that you were like because I've never done a marathon. I'm not sure if I ever will.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But the load of training for a marathon is huge.
Yeah. Takes up your whole Saturday morning.
How much, how many times did that inner voice and what happened 10 years ago go, just suck it up and keep going?
Yeah, pretty much every Saturday.
Every single time.
Because you have to like wake up early. It's cold in the morning when I was training because the marathon was in August. So like the long runs were like June, July. And I would run from West End to Toowong across the Story Bridge.
Were you doing it by yourself?
Yeah. On myself, and your phone dies. You can't even listen to anything because it's like 3.5 hours of running. So I was just like watching people, learning how far the city of Brisbane is. It's not that big, so I had to do a couple laps. Yeah, it was a big time commitment. But yeah, for some reason there was something in me that was like, you have to do this to get.
Now that you've done it,
I would never do it again.
Never.
No.
That's it.
I think a half marathon is the perfect distance.
Are you a casual runner now?
Not really, no. No, I've gone straight back into weight training now. Yeah.
Well, that horse is that horse has been ridden.
I did like cross country and track in high school. I was built like a pole, so I was long, and so that was good for long distance running.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to deviate from that now.
Back to Boston. I know that like trauma I've had in my life, you don't, I think people who really have it, and I'm trying to think of the words, if we have something that's very close to us, it's not something we advertise.
Yeah.
So you have people like you have people that you would have known for some time, and it's never come up in conversation.
Yeah. Yes. And it's interesting because there's some people that I meet and they say, oh, where are you from? And I say, Boston. And they go, oh, that's where the marathon bombings were. I'm like, yeah. Why is that the first thing you say to me?
Well, unfortunately, that's now something we associate with Boston.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I said to you before, I associate Dropkick Murphys with Boston. So
yeah.
I'm a bit different.
Yeah. And it was good in terms of like the Boston camaraderie was really powerful after that. Like
it seemed like, again, from what I've now seen, and I kind of feel obviously I'm coming in very late, but just to maybe, I don't know, for us in Australia, because we're so far away, like I said, it was something that we weren't seeing all the other things, and it was like, oh, that's terrible. Anyway, on to the next story.
Yeah.
But to see from the doco how much camaraderie there was in the city.
Yeah.
It seems like that has helped hold it together.
Yeah, when they did find the guy in the boat.
Oh man.
Is it Jaharzanias? I think that was his name.
Okay.
They had nicknames for them. One was Speed Bump because the older brother.
I know. Oh my God.
He got run over by a police van. His brother ran him over. Yeah. So they called him Speed Bump. Oh, it was Flashbang and Speed Bump.
Yeah.
Their names. Yeah.
I think they were calling them Black Hat and White Hat originally.
Yeah.
From the video footage. But yeah, so it was interesting to see like the city was, and rightly so, Boston seems to have a very it's one of the oldest cities in the States. Yeah. That has this real camaraderie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good to watch.
Yeah, we had a big riot the night they found him. A happy riot. There was people, I remember there was people climbing in the trees, and this is so American, but
carry on.
There was a guy in the tree and we were walking down the road and he was just like USA, and then there was just like thousands of us like USA. Like,
that's not American at all.
We are a stereotype. And even the police were doing joy laps around my block, and we went up to Mission Hill, which was like where all the frats were by my uni, and there was just parties and we were just like lighting fireworks, and that was like a fun way to end it. Yeah, that was positive. The police were just like, hell yeah, because they had police officers from everywhere in Massachusetts coming to Boston for that 4 days. So like my good friend's dad from like where my family's restaurant is, he was in Boston looking for him. It was all hands on deck. Yeah.
How long were you in Boston after?
So that was when I took a year off. So I was there for another couple weeks and then I left, and then I was like, I need to get out of here.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
would you have not left as early had that not happened? Now, like you said,
Yeah.
now we hindsight.
Yeah, I definitely lost the desire to live there. So I never lived in Boston again after that. My last year of uni, when I was still going to that school, I commuted from my parents' house.
Yeah,
right. And then, so I did 6 months in Washington, D.C. And during that time, we had 2 lockdowns as well in Congress because it was President Obama's regime, and they did the government shutdown because they couldn't pass the funding. And there was someone who tried to drive onto the White House lawn and shoot the president. And then there was somebody who tried to drive into Congress. And we just kept getting locked down. And this girl I worked with had also been at the marathons. And we were like, why do these things keep happening to us?
They're chasing us. Do you know anybody, or are you in touch with people that are still, you know, you're obviously deeply affected by it still. Is there still people you're in touch with that it's affected them more, if not worse?
Not necessarily in touch with them. Like the classmates that I had who were at the finish line, we've never talked about it, but I kind of opened up about it last year on my Instagram. And one girl who I was friends with, who was in my building, messaged me and we talked about it because she was like, yeah, I've gone through the same thing, not realizing that I had all this trauma from that event, because we were like pretty far removed from the action. So we were like, no, we mustn't be affected. But yeah, so we caught up about that, but otherwise, no, not really. Yeah.
And have you ever found that it's like you said, the documentary is quite new and that sort of thing, but it's, you know, I wouldn't be the first person that has said about, you know, oh, what's the doco on it? Are you just like, fuck, here we go?
No, I don't mind it too much, like, because the documentary only just came out on the anniversary, because it was the 10-year anniversary this year. The is it Patriots Day, the film with Mark Wahlberg about it?
Yeah, I think so.
That one irritated me for a while, because people would, I don't know, it just seemed to me like flippant to just put it on, and I was like, that's my real life that happened to me. But then I watched it and it was really good. So
there was another one too, wasn't there? Jake Gyllenhaal might have been in it. There was another one where
I don't know about that one.
Lost their legs or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, and like you said, like you've worked through it a lot now.
Yeah.
And it's something that we say, like, you know, you didn't even realize you maybe had trauma until now. But like now you're working through it. This is getting dug up. If this doco had been on 5 years ago,
I would have been triggered.
Fucking killed.
Because it was like thinking about it used to make my pulse like go really fast, and I was like, what is happening? Like, just even the thought of talking about it would make me really like react. But yeah, it's been a long process, but I guess helping other people now understand that things that aren't like a car accident or being in an explosion can still be trauma. Is really, I feel like, is my mission in life now.
Well, it's like we were talking about when we were young, or when I was young, going to a psych was a thing. Like, my grandfather was in World War II, and you know, my grandmother would be like, he's at the bowls club again, getting smashed. But you know, he had PTSD through the wazoo. He was just never diagnosed.
And it's that whole generation. Then they was like, shut up and deal with it, or you know, oh, you've got a bit of shell shock.
Yeah.
So
yeah, shell shock.
Yeah.
That was the word. And again, he lost an arm in the war, but the way that he got told to deal with it, if we did that to somebody now, we'd literally be charged.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's like now evidence coming out, like suppressing all these emotions can cause cancer. It can cause like chronic fatigue. It can cause all these different diseases. ALS, like, is all linked to your mental health. So is there a rise in cancer, or is it just a lot of people with suppressed emotions? And then
And that's, like you said, a little bit of a mission of yours now.
Yeah.
Do you feel that trauma you experienced, especially in the Boston frame of mind, it's helped you?
Oh yeah. Like this year on the anniversary, I took all the clients and we had a race, and it just happened to fall on that day. And I was that was the first time I opened up about what happened to me to any of my clients before. And I was kind of like, it's that I think is the direct reason why I'm in this line of work now. And everything that's led to me being in this role has been like serendipity. Is that the right word? Where it just like happens, like magically.
It's meant to be.
My mother-in-law had a conversation with her neighbor who happened to work for this organization, who gave me a contact number, who I called, who gave me a job. And now, like, it just.
Kylie, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
I think everything just has a way of working itself out.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes, like, I work with people and other people I know, they have, they have their goals and they have it all set out, bang, 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 and they write lists. And I'm just like, it'll work out.
Yeah. If you put it out there. Yeah.
I was reading something someone wrote the other day. I'm going to be honest. It was about the Spice Girls reforming.
Nice.
And whether or not Victoria would join. And Mel B said, if I talk about it happening enough, it will happen.
Yeah.
And I went,
that's so true.
Maybe it's the Spice Girls reference isn't right up there, but that's true.
Yeah.
If you want this to happen bad enough, it will happen.
If you put it out there, opportunities happen.
Yeah. What we got left? All right. 3 pieces of advice to people that are finding reasons to not back themselves, to instead back themselves.
It's funny because I put basically what we were just saying. You attract the energy you put out there as one of my pieces of advice for people.
Perfect. Perfect.
The other one is, I think it's a basketball quote, but I say this all the time. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yep.
Because, I spent a lot of years in fear of failing, and then I just didn't do anything. So I'm like, it's better to have tried and failed than never try anything at all. Yeah.
Why do you feel so? I was talking to my classes about this week, because coming back from Thailand, that's the thing I love. One thing I love about this so much is so simple. No one cares. No one judges you. You can walk down the street with a bright yellow cap and a pink tutu and nobody gives a shit. But the other thing is, they are always, there's no rank, there's no status. Everyone's just in working together. For you, how you said that, do you feel that you've lost, like, you don't really set any expectations? You'll just, if you fall on your ass doing something, then that's just part of it.
I don't think I'm that level yet. There's still some like reservations about putting myself out there, but yeah, it's improved. Because the other thing I've written down is like, people are more interested in what's going on for them. They're not that interested in you, even though you think everyone's looking at me. Oh my God. Like when you're at the gym, they're going to be judging me. I still have that thought sometimes. And I'm like, they're all staring in the mirror at themselves. Like
taking the selfies.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, what do you have to lose? And it's the people who are the most confident in themselves that are the most successful, because that's the energy that they're putting out there. And it's like, I am successful. I'm amazing. Look at this. I'm so good at my job. Because when I fell into this job, I had no idea what I was doing.
That would clearly be something that you have to work through with your clients as well.
Yeah.
Because again, coming from having experience in that area, that's one of our major fears, is people judging us. No one will love me. And having so much trouble dealing with people who love you the most.
Yeah.
That would be something you'd have to work through them nearly daily.
Yeah. And it's that deep-seated belief that comes from people, maybe when you're a child, saying like you're worthless, or you're only worth anything if you're a good girl, kind of thing. But yeah, it's definitely something we have to work on with them.
Yeah, it would be. It's probably part of the reason they're there too.
Yeah. I find it interesting too, sometimes the clients who've completed rehab and then they're like out in the community and they have a little slip up or something, and then they're afraid to tell me.
Yeah.
because they think that I'm going to judge them.
They feel they failed you.
Yeah. And I'm like, this isn't from me. Like, if you call me and you're like, I'm having a hard time, I'm 100% there to support you. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, wow, I can't believe you did that.
And I think that's the thing too, is they probably, whether we want to admit it or not, when we're in these positions, they end up holding you in such high regard.
Yeah.
Like I said, they feel they've failed you. They feel you will judge them.
When it's like, when have I ever shown you that? But it's just, you get in your own head about everything. Like, oh, they're going to hate me. So what I often do with people who catastrophize that I work with, and myself really, you get a little chart. My belief is, nobody likes me. What's the worst case scenario? Nobody likes me and I die alone, and like I never have any friends. I'm so lonely. And then it's like, what's the most likely scenario? Maybe a couple people don't like me, but I have a few friends. I have these good supports. And then it says, will I be okay in a week? Yes. Yeah, I probably will be. But you can get into your head really easily with that, like sort of black and white thinking, catastrophizing, and like, oh my God, everyone hates me. I'm a failure at everything. If you just, yeah.
Are there, it's probably one thing that just popped in my head. You have, you obviously have these people who come in, they've been through some massive stuff. And you say that feeling of failure and judgment. Do you say to them things like, if you're on social media, get off? Do you like sort of, do you have little things? Because obviously there's that sort of stuff with the judgment. How do you, what's your first step to try and get them to go, it's okay to not be liked by everybody?
Yeah. We don't really do much with social media. Now I'm thinking we probably should, but
you're welcome.
It's more like probably the most effective thing that we go through is boundaries and like learning your own rights and how to assert your rights and your needs to somebody. It helps when they have specific like relationships which can be problematic like that, to temporarily not speak to that person or to monitor the medium with which they communicate. So rather than in person where the person has a chance to cut you off and stuff, maybe you need to send a text message. That comes into play in our boundaries group a lot, where it's like, if you have a mom or something who every time you speak to her, she's putting you down, can't believe you're such a failure, like you rehab, whatever. In that scenario, you might need to just send her a message and say, for the next few weeks, I'm not going to be able to communicate with you. I feel pretty like low when we speak. So for my own mental health, I need to have a break. I love you, blah, blah. Like,
so it's like, well, not the full 12, but you've got steps in there similar to like a 12-step kind of thing. Yeah.
And it's not like everyone doesn't necessarily need that. I find a lot of our clients, and I'm thinking about social media, I don't think they're necessarily on social media a lot of the time.
You probably find maybe a lot of them aren't. It's just something, because in my instance, when I've had chats to people, members of mine or friends of mine, and they're talking about judgment and all the rest of it, and this person here, this person there, that's one of the first things I say to them: cancel your account. Because that's all you're focusing on. And again, like you said, you would see that there's all these people out there that do like you, are there for you, would drop everything to help you, but you're focusing on the one or two people that
There's a good TED talk about that, but I can't remember who does it, but it's about how we focus on the negative, that one negative thing that happens. You can have a promotion at work, $1,000 bonus, and then someone says something mean to you and you're like, this was a bad day.
And that's like I said about Thailand, like they're not focused on the speed of their internet or how many likes they get. They can eat, they've got something, they've got a roof over their head. That's it.
That's all you really need. The rest is a societal construct.
Apparently.
Getting back to Into the Wild days.
Into the Wild.
Move into a van.
Well, soundtrack was awesome. A quote to live by.
How lame. I've already said this quote, but I did that one from Into the Wild.
Do it again.
There is no greater joy than to have an endlessly changing horizon, for each day to have a new and different sun. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes when I get bogged down in the little things. And I'm like, big picture, what was my aspiration, and it was like to see the world.
Have you done that?
I've seen a lot. Yeah.
Is
but
there more to see?
To always have an adventure, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a traveling adventure, but yeah, there's lots more ground to cover. So yeah, I have a bit more exploring to do. When I turn 30 next week.
Turn 30 next week. Just a pop, mate.
I know.
How well, that's for those who are not in tune with our questions. That's number 10. That's the last one. But now I've got question 11 for you.
Yeah.
This is your first ever podcast.
Yeah.
How'd you go?
I think okay.
Were you as nervous as you thought you'd be? Now, and the reason I say that is we had to not tiptoe on some stuff, but there was some stuff there that was heavy-ish.
I wasn't like nervous, like I'm afraid to speak in public kind of thing, but it is, because I tend to get carried away when I'm speaking often, and there's some things where I don't need everyone to know all of the things in my life. But no, I'm happy with what we've done, and yeah, it's like it's good now to be able to speak about the bombings and everything, and like help that to color my experience with trauma and the line of work that I'm doing, and helping people to understand it will help to change the stigma of addiction that still is very prominent.
I would call the bombings your superpower.
Oh,
well, as I think I said to you in one of our chats, if I want to learn how to build a house, I'll go to somebody who's built a house. If I want to learn how to swim, I'll go to someone who's a good swimmer. Yeah. If I want to learn how to deal with trauma, I'm going to go to someone who's got their own stuff they're working on. Yeah. Experience is our best teacher.
That's true. Yeah.
You would have seen people in your field that, for want of a better word, maybe educated fools, and they probably don't last long. Yeah.
Yeah, there's only so much you can learn about without having the experience.
That's it.
Yeah. And like I always say to my clients, there's not a single person I've ever worked with who has no trauma. Like if you view it as the iceberg kind of thing, the addiction is the symptom, it's the thing that's above the surface, but below that is childhood trauma, all kinds of sexual abuse, like anything, even just like having a immature parent or neglect can lead you to that symptom.
Yeah.
And like they always say, if you presented at the hospital with an infection and they treated you for the fever, you would come back the next day with a worse fever because you're not getting to the actual cause. And that's just what addiction is. You can get addicted to anything.
The Band-Aid over the oil light.
Yeah, exactly. Like anything that you are attaching to emotionally to fill that void or avoid that feeling that you're having is an addiction.
Yeah.
And we place so much stigma and judgment on people who are addicted to alcohol and addicted to drugs. And it's like easy to place them in this category of taboo or whatever. But then you meet these people and it's like, it's everyone. Everyone can have this can happen to.
I can honestly attest, and I've said this to you as well, the people from your line of work that I work with, in all seriousness, they fucking crack me up.
Yeah.
And I have that much respect for them because they are one of the minority that has actually put their hand up and gone, I have a problem.
Yeah.
I need help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because how many do we walk past every single day that are in flat out denial?
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are judging the people.
They don't want to hear it because it means that they can't have their wine at the end of the day.
Correct.
Oh, that's a you problem. It's not me.
That's it. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kylie Shannon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed that.
Me too.
You did well.
I'm dry. I need some coffee.
We need more coffee. Guys, thank you for listening. There will be more podcasts to come. And if you want to listen to previous podcasts, make sure you subscribe to our channel and our stuff. And that's it. You're free to go, mate.
Thank you.
Go and help more people. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Kyl Reber podcast, and thank you for taking the time to listen to another amazing person that is doing amazing things that is just like you and I, and like you, is capable of greatness. So make sure that you listen to this, take away something from it, and use that to inspire you to back yourself and become something that you could have never dreamed you're possible of becoming. Please make sure you listen to future episodes. Please make sure you follow, like, and share all our channels, because let's get the word out that everybody, everywhere, no matter who they are, is capable of doing some pretty amazing things. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. My name's Kyl Reber. See you soon.